Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Would you like me to start things, Ali? Yes. Good morning, everyone. We'll start this meeting with election of the chair.
Okay, I'd like to propose Ali Gordon-Creed,
Okay.
please. I'd like to second that, please.
Brilliant. Thank you. Ali is the chair. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting. I'm Councillor Ali Gordon-Creed, and with me, I'm chair of the panel, and with me are Councillor Ed Sadler and Councillor Ben Higgins. A few statements to make before proceeding with the meeting. Can everyone please ensure their phones are on silent and other devices? We know the fire procedure in the room and it's not relevant for you guys. If you have a question in the meeting, please raise your hand to alert me. Please don't speak unless you're invited to. And for those joining remotely, when you're not speaking, please ensure that your microphone is off and your microphone is muted and your camera is turned off. Are there any other questions or any other issues which need addressing before we carry on? No? Good. The procedure for this meeting was included in the agenda pack. Has everyone understood and is okay with that? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Chair.
And can I find out if there are any members of the panel who have declarations of interest?
I mean, I have visited the process in question a couple of times, but I don't think that is a disclosable or prejudicial interest.
No, but thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. So the application for the review of a premises license under the Licensing Act 2003. The Cheesy Grape for Marketplace, Henley-on-Thames, RG92AH. And we will now begin with this item, and I invite the licensing officer to present their report.
Thank you, Chair. So, as you've outlined, we're here to discuss the premises license variation application submitted for the Cheesy Grape. The premise license was first granted in 2021, and the license currently authorises the sale of alcohol and the provision of late night refreshment up until 11:30 p.m. and midnight, respectively. The variation proposes an extension of hours for these activities until 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, and the addition of recorded music as a licensable activity, also on Friday and Saturday nights. A table showing the current and proposed hours can be found at section 3.4 of your papers. The application proposes to add licence conditions relating to the provision of door supervisors at the premises, which has the suggested wording with some minor amendments made by the licensing officer. Those are at 3.6 of your papers. During the consultation period, no representations were received from the responsible authorities. One representation was received from other persons, and you can see this representation on page 42 of your papers. The representation raises concerns about noise from the premises and from intoxicated customers. The objector was asked whether there are any steps that could be taken to mitigate their concerns, and their comments in response to that can be found on page 43 of your papers. It is noted that one of the steps that they mention in relation to keeping doors and windows closed is a license condition already on the license, so that one's covered. And having reviewed the licensing team's records, I can advise there are no complaints about the premises in relation to noise or those sorts of issues that have been raised, and that's noted at section 3.13 of your papers. Some relevant sections of the Council's policy and national guidance are included in section 4 of your papers, and the options available to you are outlined at section 5. So I don't propose to read all those to you, but I'll gladly clarify any questions that you've got, any points of query. It's been quite a straightforward one.
Thank you for that, Charlie. And now I invite panel members to ask any questions they have to the officer.
Yeah, I noticed one of your responses on there. I think it referred to a device which could cut out in the event of noise levels decreasing a certain level. Is that correct?
When you say my responses,
or that was proposed by
it's possibly correct. So there are devices you can get called noise limiters that cut out when music equipment gets above a certain level. I don't know if that's actually proposed in.
I couldn't quite tell because you referred to the limiter, but I couldn't see where he'd actually recommended it or whatever. So
there's a limit that's mentioned in Appendix D on page 43. That's the correspondence from the applicant he's proposing that as a measure that he would like to see. It is an option. You can impose that as a license condition. Tends to be for more nightclub type premises. Although obviously, if you feel that's an appropriate measure, you can impose that license condition.
I just think where they're proposing introducing music where they weren't doing so before.
Yeah.
And the lateness of the hour. I wonder whether that actually might be a sensible condition to add in this case.
That's obviously something for you to consider.
Okay, so we can consider that. And also, may I ask another question, Chair? It talks about enforcement, and forgive me, I don't quite remember where I saw it, but there was a thing about enforcement, and I think also, how does enforcement enforce when a complaint is active? So, for example, if there's a kind of an alarm raised at 1 a.m. because of spill out of people into the street, are enforcement there to act on that complaint?
So we don't have an emergency call out provision. So that if somebody calls at 1 a.m, there isn't anyone that can answer that and immediately go out. However, if we get complaints of that nature, it would be sort of added to a list of premises that are visited when we're doing a late shift work. From a licensing point of view, environmental health have other steps they take. They've got noise monitoring procedures that they can do as well if it was a noise nuisance related complaint.
So it becomes a police matter in a sense, doesn't it, I suppose?
So it could do. If a crime is, it can be reported to the police. If it's a license brief, sorry, just pause.
We've got some noise going on outside. Apologies, we're just going to.
Sorry. So we would investigate if there's a potential breach of a license or a license condition, something like that. That would primarily be the licensing team. We would investigate that. If it's alleging a noise nuisance, that would be environmental health who would generally look at that. If there's a criminal element, like a crime has taken place, then that's a police matter. Yeah.
Are there any other questions to the officer?
No.
I thought I could just clarify, because you mentioned music. There is provision up until 11 p.m. for them to have live and recorded music without that being a licensable activity named on the license. So the premises up until now can carry out music, and obviously after now as well, can carry out live and recorded music up until 11 p.m. regardless of what happens today. There's a specific exemption that allows a licensed premises to do that without needing it to be specified on the license. So after 11 p.m, it must be stated on the license if you want to carry on doing that activity, and they're adding recorded music. Proposing to add.
Yeah, so to simplify that, so currently they have opening hours up till 23:30 plus music, and all they're doing is having those conditions applied to 100 hours, but on a Friday and Saturday, is that correct?
So you can see the copy of the current license on page 34. They've got until midnight for late night refreshment, which is hot food or drink. That only starts at 11 p.m. anyway. And the sale of alcohol finishes at 11:30 every day of the week currently.
Yes.
And yeah, they're proposing to open a little bit later.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like the applicant to present their case.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Don from Silver Fox Licensing Consultants, and I'm representing today the applicant, Miss Rebecca Benson, who is the current premises license holder. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background to the style of business. The license was granted back in 2021, and my client has been operating that business until today. Your licensing officer was absolutely correct in saying that whilst entertainment is not a licensable activity on the license itself, we have taken advantage of the Live Music Act, which enables us to operate both live music and recorded music up until 11, where the sale of alcohol is authorised. The current licence for the sale of alcohol runs through to 11:30 and generally is open to the public until midnight. Now, over the years, my client has applied for temporary event notices, particularly to cover the Henley Regatta events, which is obviously a major event in Henley, for much later hours. So every year she has applied and received a temporary event notification to operate until 2 a.m. 4 or 5 nights a week, depending on which year you look at. The style of the business is very much a restaurant wine bar specializing in charcuterie and rare selections of cheese. There are other additional menu items as well. On a Friday and Saturday, we are seeking to extend those hours as per page 9 of the public reports bundle. We wish to increase the sale of alcohol through till 1 o'clock. That's from the current 23:30, so it's an hour and a half, but also to permit recorded music from 2300, where the Live Music Act would cease, through till 0100 hours. Now, we specified recorded music because that can be controlled with a volume switch. What we haven't requested is live music after 11 p.m. because that's more difficult to control, particularly where there's a drum kit involved and so on. So we've thought about this in respect of the local residents and neighbours, and we think it's appropriate to apply for the recorded music to take us from the current 11 p.m. cut-off through till 1 p.m. in the morning. Now, over the since 2021, your officer has confirmed that there have been no reports or complaints regarding noise in respect of this particular premises, including those times that were operating through till 2 in the morning on the back of the temporary event notices. We have offered up additional conditions, and I'm grateful to your licensing officer to amend the wording slightly, which we're happy to accept in respect of door supervisors. So there will be a risk assessment, bearing in mind that this business is principally a restaurant. It's not a nightclub, but there is a nice vibe with a DJ in the background. So we will risk assess whether we need door supervisors. Now, historically, in the past, when we've gone through till 2 o'clock during regatta, because it is so busy, my client has engaged the services of SIA door supervisors. So we've received no objections from officers from the responsible authorities, and that is significant. Now, whilst you can't take tacit approval, I think it speaks volumes that they have not sent in a representation. Neither have they offered additional conditions to be placed on the license. The only intervention we've had is from the licensing officer, just to tweak some of the wording, which we're comfortable with in the proposed additional conditions. So in summary, we've already operated through till 2 on many occasions and have not received complaints. The only representation we've had is from a local resident, and I appreciate this online hearing is in public, so I'm not going to name the street, but we we know the individual because he lives near somebody else we know, and his premises is on the same side of the street, over 1,200 meters away. Now, whilst I accept that the vicinity test was removed back in 2011, the fact is that we would ask the committee to give whatever weight that you would consider is appropriate for somebody who cannot even see the premises from his own house. For those of you familiar with Henley Town Centre, the Cheesy Grape is next door to the corner opposite Coke. You've got Starbucks and you've got Cheesy Grapes. I think you've then got 7 other licensed premises or coffee shops between the Cheesy Grape and where the local resident lives. It's over 1,200 meters away. So whilst we appreciate he has absolutely the right to make a representation, we did try to mitigate the circumstances via your licensing officer. He did try his best, but alas, he was not prepared to withdraw the representation. So it stands as it is. My client is a responsible operator. She's not had issues with licensing or the police, nor environmental protection since she's been open. Section 182 of the local guidance, of which you have a copy, will indicate that every application is based on its own merits. And as a licensing committee, you must consider, well, if you were to grant this extension, would it undermine the 4 licensing objectives? And we would suggest not, that there is sufficient conditions within the current license, in addition to the reworded conditions in respect of the need for door supervisors. We refer to your statement of local licensing policy, where whilst the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives are paramount, you also are there to encourage local businesses to flourish. And that's a balancing operation between sometimes competing issues. As I said, we've got a track record of trading through to later than we've applied for, and we've not had over a substantial period since 2021. And whilst I accept that the resident who lives over 1,200 meters away has the right to enjoy his property under Section 8 of the Articles of the Human Rights Act, my client also has the right to operate her business. I'm open to questions, anything that I can assist the committee further.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dunn. Do any panel have questions?
I mean, I suppose, and I think you've mostly addressed them, Bill, but it would just be good to understand. So, yeah, the representation that we've had, sort of talks about an open air disco with drunken people staggering in and out of it. It would just be great to sort of maybe understand, perhaps from Rebecca in her own words, a little bit more about the nature of a typical weekend evening at the Cheesy Grape, and whether you consider that an accurate characterization or not.
Well, certainly, I'll ask Rebecca to respond in a moment. But for those of you that have visited the premises, it's a very small premises. It doesn't have a capacity more than about 65 covers. It's not a huge place, and all the customers generally are seated, although there are some bar stools at the very small bar. But that said, I'll hand over to Rebecca if she could just describe the vibe of the restaurant on a Friday and Saturday. So Rebecca, over to you.
Hello. Yeah, I think he's talking about the summer mainly, where we've got our outside seating as well. I'm really careful. The majority of the people that we have are actually regulars and local to the town. So our noise, I've never had any noise complaints from anyone else. Of course, there are drunk people every now and then. That's part and parcel of having, the bar and where we are and stuff. But there's never been an issue. If there has ever been any problems, I'm always here. So everyone comes to me and I deal with it straight away. It's a really vibey little place. It's not It's not an over the top disco, you know, I'm tiny. It's 65 covers, that's inside and outside in the summer. So in winter, we've got 32 inside. So yeah, it's not, I think it's a bit exaggerated to be saying that we're spilling out with loads of drunk people. The only time that would really happen is regatta, which is obviously the best week of the year where everyone makes as much money as they can and you have everyone from outside of town coming in. So, you know, but again, never had an issue with regatta or any complaints or issues with the police or licensing or anything during that time either. So
Thank you, Rebecca.
thanks.
That's great, thank you. Consider my question answered. I do have to say though, Bill, as a drummer, I'm not sure I necessarily appreciated your remark about drum kits and their contribution to public nuisance. So drummers can play at all volumes.
Barely hear you. You took issue with a remark that sometimes I get carried away. I'm not sure what remark are you referring to?
Don't worry about it. All right, I think that's got a question.
I do. Yes, to Phil's thing. You make reference many times to 1200 meters, so 1.2 kilometer from the premises, and I'm just reading the representation from this third party. It's hard to believe he's 1.2 kilometer from that premises. And the trouble is we don't know, because there's no address on here. We don't know anything about the person. But this complaint feels very heartfelt and very kind of personal. And I just want to close that out and really understand and make sure that it is a bit of a one-off, because I mean, clearly there are people who live right over it, so and aren't complaining. So I just want to really understand that.
Okay, if you were to turn out, I take it you're familiar with Marketplace. If you turn out Cheesy Grape, you turn right, you go up the hill, you go past the town hall, right to the very end, and then you cross the road further up, and that's where the local resident lives. Now, obviously, he has a right to make a representation, and he feels uncomfortable about granting it, and we have some sympathy there. This isn't the first license application he's objected to. There are other cases on file with your authority, with your local licensing authority. So I think he is a person who's minded to object to licensing applications. You've got records on your own files there. And indeed, because the matter came before committee, you will be aware of who he is. The licensing officer, I assume, has taken due diligence. He did try to negotiate with the neighbour, but unfortunately, I don't think there's anything we can do or offer up in terms of conditions that would satisfy him. And of course, you must consider his representation as correct and appropriate, but it's how much weight you give to this resident, based on the fact that no other residents have complained, and we've not received any complaints elsewhere on file with Environmental Protection.
Yes, and I absolutely caveated what I said by saying that we have no other residents complaining within the facility. But it's just interesting reading the way he's written that. It's almost, he feels personally affected, and yet he lives 1.2 kilometre from the property, which I mean, you know, to me that he cannot be affected in that way. So I'm just really curious about the representation. So I think Rebecca.
Yeah, sorry.
Can I just a minute, Rebecca? It is the licensing officer did try to approach him on our behalf to negate the need for a hearing in this matter, but he was very reticent to change anything, and you will see his responses in the bundle. He's just against it. And does it feel personal? Well, it does. Whilst the applicant, Rebecca, doesn't know the individual, her mother does, because she lives in an adjoining property.
Thank you, Bill. Rebecca, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, the live music that I would do, I mean, you've got to go past 1, 2, 3 bars actually in a pub on the other side, so 4 places that have live music with drummers and other musical instruments, which I never have. So, and one is literally directly by his house. So I think I've also the chap that lives upstairs in the flat above the Cheesy Grape, he parties a little bit and has his music playing pretty loud sometimes, where people have mistaken his music for my music on a Thursday evening. So that could be part of it as well, because I mean, he's a great person to have living upstairs because he never complains about the music that I have, but he does have his music playing quite loudly sometimes. So I don't know whether his issue may have been with that one time or what have you, but it seems a bit to be going past all of those bars and it be me.
Yeah, thank
So-
you, Rebecca. We will, the
Thank you.
panel will absolutely consider and take the history into account. So thank you for
Thank
that.
Thanks.
You can satisfy your question.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right, does anyone else have questions for anyone at this point?
No.
No, all good. Thank you. I think that concludes the presentation at this stage. Yes.
Yes, Ma'am,
So-
I have nothing further to add to my previous submission.
Thank
We
you.
were tying now, do we?
There's summing up, but I think the applicant's representative is explained, and is Rebecca happy that it's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
else? That's right.
No, nothing else. Thank you.
Licensing. So
I'm not sure I've got anything to noteworthy to add. It's obviously Mr. Patty is not here to put forward his comments in verbally, but you've got his comments in writing to take into account. It's your decision on what is proportionate. The decisions are the options are there in the paper for you.
Right.
Thank you.
So I think we can conclude that all relevant parties have said what they need to say and heard.